So this first move is going to be the plank. And what I've traditionally seen from a lot of my clients is this lordosis, so that low back arch right there, or their hips are too high and they have trouble getting into that position or fixing it once they get there. So my favorite setup is actually from the ground. Elbows right under your shoulders. Get your shoulders back and away from your ears and have a little tension. Then push up, vertebrae by vertebrae. The hips are lifting a little bit here, but not actively. Vertebrae by vertebrae until I get to my hips. Then I'm just gonna squeeze my glutes. And then you can either stay here, this is such a good functional position, or tuck your toes and just straighten your legs. Don't lift your hips actively. So that gets you in a full core. You should feel every bit of your abs working here. And then I want you to think about driving your heels back and keep that glute squeeze. And then if you want to level it up, drive your elbows slightly towards your hips without letting your hips drop and keeping that belly button pressed to your spine. That's how you get a nice dynamic plank. And if that's too hard for you, do it off an elevated surface. Grab a bench and lift up a little bit and get into the position in an elevated position to be a little bit easier on that setup and build that core functionally in the exact same way. So get up on an elevated surface and you can work on that core strength as well and progress into that next level. And then I always recommend all my people to master that before they add something more dynamic and fancy move that they saw on the internet. And then number 2 is the Deadbug, which anyone who's been with me knows I love. Such a functional core as a rehab exercise and a very specific strength with a neutral spine, which is something we all need a little bit better. So, Deadbug starts on the ground. You want your knees right over your hips. And we're going to start just with the legs, excuse me. I'm just going to start with just the legs, and then we'll add the more dynamic and progressive. So, what you want to think about is shoulders down and press into the ground, rib cage down, belly button push to the ground, and then I also want you to think of your tailbone and pelvis press on the ground. Then you're going to exhale and lower one leg. Then you're going to inhale, come back up. Exhale, pushing your core into the ground. Inhale back. That breath is important, so don't rush the move. I see people doing this all the time, and I'm like, that is not the purpose of this one. You really want that press into the ground. If it's easy, you're not pushing into the ground enough. The other thing I see, and before you progress to another level, progression of the Deadbug, I want to make sure your hips do not shift. That's the number one thing I see when they lower a leg, they let their hip go. So think of that rib-hip alignment. So put your thumb on your rib cage, your forefinger on your iliac crest, which is the head of that pelvis. Push shoulders, belly button, tailbone, your whole pelvis into the ground. Then exhale, lower, and make sure your hip didn't shift. And inhale, go back. So exhale, press into the ground. And master that before you even straighten a leg as you go down, before you add alternate arm, before you add weight, anti-rotation, curling up, adding that ice hold. This can actually help a little bit if you're having some trouble. But I like to start here with that neutral spine and really fine-tune this press here with no hip, so you don't want that pelvic shift. So I'm going to demo what not to do, and I'm with my hands out of the way so you can see. So as I lower, if I don't hold my pelvis, and I'm still pressing my belly button, but my hips shifted away. I don't know if you can see that there, but put your fingers there, make sure it doesn't move and it's super solid. Okay? I can even get closer to the screen so you really can see this movement right here that I don't want. So, shoulders, belly button, rib cage, exhale, lower. So this is perfect. Now I'm going to do it wrong. Letting my hip, do you see that pelvic tilt? I'm going to fix it. So there's my pelvis really in neutral position. And you know what neutral position is by where it is with your knees bent. That's why starting there is perfect. It gets your hips in the right position, core tight, and then hold that position as you extend. And inhale, come back up. Exhale, hold. Inhale, back up. Exhale, hold. Don't let that hip drop. You could see it right there, and I just fixed it. So that's really important. Pelvic stability is so important. Literally, like the number one cause for low back pain and knee pain is usually due to instability in that pelvic floor. And this is a nice, easy way to work on that and get that functional strength, because when you're running or out doing something, it's really hard. Hiking, lifting, it's hard to feel those muscles active. So let's train them in the gym to be stable and then bring it outside. Thanks, guys. Have a good rest of your day, and I hope these 2 tips helped. Bye.